Good afternoon and welcome to Pause Resumes Patch Notes. Today we're going to be discussing Destiny. I'm your host Alex and I'm here with Joe.
Hello.
So what we're going to do, we're going to split this into two parts. The first part is Destiny at launch basically, and we will touch the two first packs of DLC that came out, and then after that we will break up to the Taken King. So let's just start with Destiny from launch. So Joe, overall, how did you feel Destiny launched?
Well, going into it, I think there was a fair amount of hype, wasn't there?
Yeah,
I played the beta
multiple times.
I loved it.
Yeah.
And then the game came out, and it's safely got mixed reviews. Some people still defend it to this day.
Yeah.
But on launch, if you were a single player kind of person, there was nothing for you in this game.
Yeah. I mean, your goal was primarily to get to the max level, which was level 20 at the time. Don't remember it taking long to get to level 20. I can't remember exactly how long it took, but...
No, you just went from each planet really doing kind of similar things, just killing different mobs.
Yeah, exactly. Killing different mobs. There was a few mini bosses here and there, but...
You didn't really know why you were doing what you were doing.
No, and it's safe to say the story itself was a bit lackluster during the original game. So... From an initial outset, there wasn't all that much there. Let's say you get to level 20, then from level 20 your kind of options are, I mean obviously you can do PvP throughout if you didn't want to level up the normal way.
Which was fun for a while.
Yeah, but then I still feel like they're still to this day missing a trick with the multiplayer side of things. But yeah, so multiplayer was really an option, and then...
Seeing as it was Bungie, and they had some of the best multiplayer systems.
There was the multiplayer that I remember from my childhood being like...
The Halo days.
Yeah, exactly. But they just kind of missed out there in a big way. Then the other thing you could obviously do from a PvE perspective was the strikes. Because at launch there was no raid, it came out slightly later.
Yeah.
So the main thing you could do was the strikes. And I'll be honest, I've spent... many hours
grinding them
doing
out.
Strikes, and I did enjoy doing the strikes at a point, I suppose.
There were heroics, and I think Nightfalls may have came kind of similar time to the raid.
Yeah, maybe a little bit later.
But
so the whole goal was you do strikes to ensure that you get more loot. The whole goal is to get the best loot possible.
Essentially, you're just trying to grind reputation and endergram drops.
Yeah.
To then in turn give you some better items.
And then in turn, let's move forward a little bit now. Obviously, the raid came out slightly later. The idea is you need good gear from strikes to be able to do the raid.
There was a cap. You couldn't just do it.
You can't walk into the raid, which is great. That kind of reminds me of the old Warcraft days where you have to be attuned to go into these raids. But then there came the big problem, I suppose, personally, I found it so difficult to do a raid.
To get a full group of people you knew, I don't know, that was the best way to do it.
You have to do it with friends, is the way. I mean, you could probably look online and find groups and things like that, but realistically, it's never as fun as playing with your mates kind of thing. Because we managed to do the raid one time, where we had a full set of us, and we went in, we did it, figured out how to do the bosses and stuff.
That was the most fun I had playing the game.
And it was by far the most fun I had playing, was just doing the Vault of Glass, because the bosses were really challenging, they were very different to anything you'd done before. Because that was kind of the thing with the strikes, because a lot of the strikes were pretty similar.
Yeah, they're just bullet sponges, pretty much everything.
Yeah, exactly. So. But with the raid, I remember that one boss in that central room where he would teleport about, he had to kill the oracles and stuff like that. And
it definitely was reminiscent of World of Warcraft back in the glory days.
And that's kind of what I expected Destiny to be when they said, it's a first-person shooter MMORPG. I was like, all right, you've got my attention. But then, like we said, the problem came is it was so difficult to get a raid party. Once you've done that kind of raid and you've got all the gear from, let's say, you've done this raid 10 times, you've got all the best gear you can get, then your only real option is to make a new character, do PvP. There's not much more you can get out of it,
Once you hit the cap, that's it. There's nothing left to do.
You can walk around the tower looking like the nuts, but that's about as far as you're going to get.
Yeah.
I suppose then you could jump into the PvP side of things. Again, I can't exactly remember.
They didn't really have much competitive PvP to start with anyway.
They started doing the Iron Banner, but I can't really remember when they started it.
So that took into account the quality of your gear.
Which was cool, and I liked that, because it was kind of the first sort of...
I also remember a video of like a level 1 guy doing Iron Banner. It wasn't level 1, but he had no good gear.
Right.
And like, he was absolutely killing everyone.
Oh, really?
So I don't know.
It didn't really affect it.
make that much difference.
Sure. Okay.
At first, at least. I don't know what it's like now.
Yeah, see, I mean, I remember at first I hardly even did it just because I didn't really find the multiplayer was that interesting. I mean, the thing what I didn't like about the multiplayer was there was no way of defining that I'm better than you, which is all
no
I
ladder.
Yeah, which is all I want to do in multiplayer. I wouldn't be able to say to my friends, I am number one. You know, that is why I play these kind of competitive games. But it was just a case of, again, you play PvP missions, you get more points, you buy more gear.
The PvP was definitely a lot less rewarding than the PvE was in terms of drops and everything, really.
I mean, I think, again, they've tried to help it now, but at launch it was just, there was no real... I mean, and I did a fair amount of PvP just because I like first-person shooters online.
Yeah.
But the same kind of thing comes, you get to the point where it's like, oh, what's the point? Why am I doing it, you know? And it just kind of fell flat quite there.
All the maps were quite nice, though. They were, like, unique. Like, all the different planets and everything.
Yeah, I think they nailed the structure of online in terms of you could tell the Halo team had made these online maps. They were clever, they were well thought out, they were simple to navigate, there was good weapon placements, all that kind of stuff. But it was not the quality of the multiplayer, it was the lack of like we said,
everything
the
else.
ladder. So at launch, maybe not the greatest kind of start. I mean, some people, like you said, defend it still to this day, but from our point of view, it was a little bit rocky. I mean, I remember dropping off fairly quickly after we had done a lot of the stuff I could do anyway.
Everything was better when you did it with friends, pretty much. So if you're a single player kind of guy, then it's not for you at all. Really.
No. So then we had both bought the super limited collector's edition,
legendary edition,
as we do stupidly. And with this, you obviously got 2 DLC passes. It was the House of Wolves and
the Dark Below, I think it was called.
That's it, yeah. Now, again, with both of these, I remember playing the first one for about an hour, and I thought, wow, this is exactly the same as when it was going on before. And apparently there was new raids and all this stuff. I never tried it, couldn't really bother to get there because I just felt like it was the same pattern.
Yeah, I just lost all motivation to play the game by this point.
And do you know what I feel is? I feel like with those 2 DLCs, they had pre-planned that way before Destiny was like launched as a game. They knew it came in the
you knew what you're getting
exactly
in the bundle.
It wasn't like the Taken King, which we'll come on to in a bit, but it was a case of they knew what you were going to get, and it was the same sort of system as before. The level cap increased slightly. I can't remember if that's when they brought the light level in as well, but. They tried to make it a little bit more engaging, but it was really just repeating the same stuff on a different skin.
It was just more reputation to grind different people, really.
Yeah. There was some slight changes with the guns. Like, the first thing I remember was a gun had the 2 different types of ammo, so it had arc and fire or whatever.
You could switch it, maybe.
Yeah, that was just, again, it was kind of cool, but it's nothing revolutionary, I would say. It was just, it is what it is. So really, from the off, from my point of view, kind of missed the trick. I mean, it was fun and I enjoyed playing it, but there was no way of keeping me after we finished.
I don't think the excitement going into it definitely made it worse for the game, I think.
Definitely. Because I remember playing that first little beta where you land on Russia, old Russia or New Russia, whatever it's called, and I remember doing that about 4 or 5 times.
It's fully exploring.
And I was like, this is so fun, I love this, this is amazing. And then when you finally land in the game, you're like, there's not actually anything here.
That was literally it.
You can you can find some chests here and there. There may be some new mobs, but really it's just a map with some stuff on it and some enemies for you to kill. And that was kind of it. And I feel like that was kind of the problem because there was no real story to drive you there, even with Tyrion Lannister guiding you along. There was still no real enthusiasm to sort of think, the story's amazing, so it's all good. That was kind of what they did well with Halos. The Halo story was, in my mind, one of the most epic stories you can get, sort of thing. But nowadays, they kind of lacked the story element. So from and off, I suppose, it was a bit basic.
Yeah, it's a bit shaky, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I don't really remember there being any specific issues with like connectivity or anything.
No, that's true.
Which is good. Yeah. I don't know, makes a change.
I feel like they anticipated demand quite well.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like there was ever kind of server issues, like you said, and the game rarely ever crashed for me. So it performed well. It just wasn't as fun as I was hoping it would be.
Yeah, I guess it wasn't. Like when they were advertising it, they made it to be this like epic, amazing thing. You get a spaceship.
Oh yeah,
all sorts of exciting stuff was going on, and it was all just
best thing since fried bread, basically. Is what they were saying. It just
fried bread.
Got love fried bread, but it just didn't come along. And like things like even like your spaceship and stuff like that. It was you get to choose a ship in there, but
you didn't do anything.
Yeah, you just see it in the loading screen. That was kind of your advantage.
Just another gimmick, wasn't it?
It's like you get the super collector's edition, and you get a different spaceship to everyone else. And I was like, hell yeah, no doubt I'm in for that. And then what was it? Just exactly the same ship that everyone else got with a different colour. Pointless.
Okay.
So all right, Destiny from the start, bit shaky.
Funny story for you. Remember that Centurion Oryx took right after you landed on the Dreadnought? Then the Centurion and the Taken Ogre tried to stop you from killing the king? Didn't work. So the Centurion's Bond brothers are pretty angry they lost their commander. They're leading a team to blow the Dreadnought's core. The core goes, most of the system goes with it. You're gonna make sure that doesn't happen.
Okay, so a year after the game launched, we got The Taken King came out. And this was like promised to be like what it was supposed to be all along, I guess.
Yeah.
And I feel like it did fill in some of the gaps. The story being the main one.
Yeah.
So yeah, what did you think of?
I think story point of view was the biggest like plus point for them.
Yeah, definitely.
They finally got to the point where it was like I was truly encaptured by this sort of story. I loved the Taken King boss himself.
Yeah, it was just like there was like a sense of I don't know, something was actually happening in the world. Like
it's almost kind of like he enforced terror in a way. I was kind of like, you know, when he came along, I was like, oh shit.
He killed his son. He's
like,
come with vengeance.
He's not happy.
You.
Yeah, he's not happy. But then I feel what was good as well was that story played well throughout the whole of the expansion.
Yeah.
It wasn't like there wasn't a point where it just dropped off for me, and it was just kind of like
I remember the start. There was a big cinematic where there was a big battle going on for like all the the Awoken people?
Yeah.
All the blue people.
Yeah.
And they're all in their ships, and the big explosion happened. And like that's all I wanted from the start, really.
What was his thing called? The ship he had? I can't remember.
Dreadnought.
That's it. It was when he did that Dreadnought thing, and it was just like he put his sword into, and it blew up that hole in Saturn or whatever, his Saturn's ring or whatever.
This guy is not messing about.
He means business, you know. Saturn has now been screwed because he's not happy.
So yeah, that was a new zone, wasn't it? So that was the one new zone they added.
Yeah.
Which was the first time they'd done that, as far as I was aware.
Yeah, I mean they kind of added the Taken King enemies throughout the world as well.
Yeah, the Taken?
The Taken, yeah. Which would be, to be fair, was basically the same mold split in black.
Slightly different skin, slightly different moves. They were a lot harder.
They were cool.
Some of them could really ruin your day if you let them.
Yeah. And it did give you that kind of that diversity, I suppose, when you were walking about. Sometimes you would see the normal mob, sometimes you wouldn't. So it was nice to have a bit of a change up, even not in just the Taken King and Dreadnought, but in the in the rest of the world as well.
Okay, so the story, big improvement there.
I feel like they pretty much nailed the story.
I still feel like it was being held back by the same problems of year one.
Pretty much.
It was still just a massive grind fest.
Because let me ask you the question: you're not playing Destiny right now?
Nope.
When was when was the last time you played Destiny? Well, what was the last thing you did when you played Destiny?
I was just doing endless amounts of
I can't remember.
Strikes, they're the ones, yeah. And they had a few new ones, which was nice. But after the first 10 times of doing them, they get a bit old again, don't they? So
I literally remember spamming them to get the gear to be able to do the raid, because the whole plan was like, look, boys, we're all going to do this. We're all going to get the gear. We're all going to raid together.
And it was that full sense of reward of grinding out these strikes to get very slightly better gear.
It starts off well, because you get to the point where you make that big jump.
They did make the big change in the light level, which obviously we need to touch in. The cap raised to level 40, and I think they changed it so that the average of all of your gear was then your light level.
I think it was a better system as well.
It made more sense in pretty much every aspect.
yeah, it did. But then it was the same thing. You get to that point where I've reached pretty much the max light level I can by doing strikes.
Diminishing returns, isn't it?
And now I have to raid, and there is still no real way that you can just jump into a raid finder or anything like that. I mean,
hang around the tower or go to a website.
What I find weird is there is a strike finder. You know, you can queue up and find a strike, but you can't queue up and find a raid.
They specifically said that they didn't want you to be able to queue up a raid.
I don't know, I feel like if you could, so many more people would do it.
I would have got a lot more enjoyment out of it.
Yeah, I don't know, I mean, there might be some technical reasons why you can't, or whatever, I don't know, but it just seems to me that if you offer that to people, a lot of people would do it. If you look at Warcraft as a prime example, beforehand it was that hardcore game where to do a raid you need to be in a guild, you need to like research everything like you do need to do for Destiny.
That's another thing you should probably mention, that the guilds, because it wasn't called guilds, was it? Was it like clans or something?
Yeah, you're right.
It wasn't important for the game at all. It was just like a little bit of text next to your name.
It was just kind of like a tacky add-on.
You could only do it through the website. You couldn't like communicate with them in game or anything like that.
And that was really great. Like, I mean, again, sort of bring it back to sort of Warcraft. I remember with their guild was you had a guild tab. You could sort of see everyone in your guild. You could invite them to your squads and stuff. But just something little like that. It doesn't have to be a raid finder. It could have just been like, here is all of your friends or all of the people that you've kind of invited to your little clan.
Yeah.
And here's a really easy way for you to invite them to go to a raid.
That would have been a big quality of life improvement.
Like, it just would have been simple, you know, because then you would have felt comfortable joining more clans. Like, I would have happily joined a random clan which had a hardcore player base if I knew it would mean I could
easy raids. Yeah, you could just jump in.
I mean, that's what you used to do in the day. You used to join a guild so then you could raid. But here it's kind of like you join a clan just because.
It's just tacked on extra, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
we need some kind of community thing in here, so
it just didn't really make any sense. So, like you said, they still kind of miss. They still kind of suffer from the same problem they did in the original game.
Yeah.
I mean, they did well. The story was great. I thought, I did actually quite enjoy playing it because when it first came out, I wasn't going to get it. But everyone rated it so highly, I thought, I'll give it a go.
Because there were a lot of the characters that were just sitting around the tower, and they actually they brought them to life in the expansion. Like, you remember the hunter guy? You do all the missions for him.
Oh yeah.
He was quite funny, and I enjoyed that.
Yeah, that's another thing. To be fair, they did bring the tower to life a bit more.
I guess you're more invested in kind of the whole experience.
And I think, though, I mean, we haven't really touched on the tower, so it may be worth talking about it briefly. I mean, the tower generally kind of felt a bit weird to me. I didn't really feel like. I mean, again, there was more quality of life improvements with the tower.
It just made a load of loading screens.
Yeah,
so you to go back to hand in your various quests or.
Well, they did better in the end with like you could at least hand in your bounties.
Yeah.
Through Taken King, because that, like we said, quality of life improvements. You don't have to go back to tower to hand your bounties in. Fine, but like you still have to go back to everything else, like your missions and whatever else. And it's just, I don't know. I never really felt like the tower had life. It was just kind of a load of people standing around.
Well, I suppose there was the whole thing about the voice chat as well, wasn't there? There was like no.
What was that? I can't really.
There was no zone chat, so you couldn't hear people that you didn't want to hear.
Right. Yeah.
You know
I know what you mean.
They did add it later, but I still never used it.
No, I don't know. With that, I always feel like it was just a little bit too late. Too late. And I mean, I feel like that's probably a lot of what Destiny's problem is. They did well with the Taken King, because if they would have launched with Taken King quality, you would have been like, alright, this is pretty good. And then, if there would have been an expansion that improved upon Taken King, it would have been, okay, now we're really verging on where I feel like this game should be. But it was like Taken King came out a year later. It took them a year to figure out these tiny little things that they had done. Like, granted, they did a good story, but the quality of life improvements, it took a year to get us that stuff.
They had been patching it a lot, but it was mainly bugs and like balancing things with guns.
Stuff that you'd expect they have to fix anyway.
Yeah.
So then, PvP? Did they change much in PvP?
They brought in, what was it called? Do you remember the...
Oh, speed bike racing. You know, scout racing.
That wasn't what I was talking about. But they did try to add a more competitive multiplayer, where you can only do doubles to start.
Yeah.
Was it doubles or was it free?
It was one of the two. I can't remember.
And you stayed in that as long as you could, and then you got eliminated or something.
Yes, I know what you're talking about now. It was kind of the yellow and black symbol.
Yeah.
But again, it was just...
It wasn't enough. I don't know, for me.
I just feel like the whole PvP system was just a bit weird. It never really kind of made sense to me how it...
They did improve the loot, I think, in the PvP.
Yeah, they made it so you could actually get good gear from doing PvP, which was a problem before, because it was kind of like they forced you to do PvE to get the best light level. Whereas now, at least you could do a bit of either. But they're still missing the ladder. They're still missing like the simplest thing. Like, just give us a rank.
So that's all we want, isn't it?
Yeah.
We want to be able to move up and down the ladder.
It's such a simple system. I mean, even if you look at a game like Siege, which is a first-person shooter, and their rank system is copper, bronze, silver, gold, whatever, and you go through these tiers and just level up or down.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that you go up or down is all you need.
Yeah.
Because you don't want
it makes you want to play your best the whole time.
Yeah. It's not like with Call of Duty where it's a case of the more you play, the higher up you go. It's you will be placed based on how good you are.
Which I think is the best way of doing it, but I don't think not many games do it that way. So there must be a reason.
Siege does it. League of Legends, about the only 2 games I can think of that actually do it that way. And obviously, old school Halo did it in a different way as well, where it was just.
Which is why it hurt so much because it came from Bungie.
That's it. You expected them to nail the online. Out of anything they did, you thought, they know online on the background. They'll truly nail this. But no, it was just lackluster again. It was. They tried to add more onto it later, but I still feel like they just. I feel like this thing with Taken King is they tried to fix a lot, and I feel like they did. They tackled a lot of the issues. They improved a lot of stuff.
It was a big improvement.
It was. I mean, I really enjoyed Taken King. I thought just the game generally was great.
I played it solidly for about a month.
Yeah,
I guess.
same.
And it was pretty much the same as normal Destiny, really.
Yeah.
I played that for about a month.
Exactly.
I just tapered off towards the end.
I loved it, and then I just got burnt out pretty much, just because I just.
You run out of things to do.
It was like you said at the very start. You get to the point where your light level has been hit, and you can't really go up by doing anything but raiding.
They can't create enough content to keep people entertained like the full duration of the life cycle of the game. You know what I mean?
Well, it begs the question then: is what do they need to do to pull you back?
What, Destiny 2?
Yeah, let's talk.
Which is inevitably coming.
Let's talk Destiny 2 because we understand that. All right, Taken King. They did a lot better, but it's still missed the mark in some way. Okay, Destiny 2. What would be your top 3 things you have to see in Destiny 2?
Well, from what I've read, is they've had a lot of issues with their engine and being able to actually create new content and stuff like that.
Okay.
So I don't know what I actually want. I just want a good story. I don't know how they're going to do it really. I honestly have no idea.
You just don't know, do you? It's just.
They had a good kind of base. They had solid kind of gunplay. The movement was good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the different jumps and that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really like double jumping. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. See, I think for me, it would be a case of give me a rank system in multiplayer.
Mm-hmm.
Make multiplayer something that you're going to constantly want to come back to.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was kind of the problem before. It was I never really felt urged to play online, to play multiplayer. Sorry. Just because it's just I could get some gear, I get some badges, but what's really the point?
I think they need a more creative way to make Nightfalls and that more interesting, opposed to just giving it 1 billion HP.
Yeah.
Just sit there shooting it for hours.
They need to adapt the raid quality.
Make it more difficult another way, opposed to just they hit harder and take longer to kill.
I mean, the Vault of Glass was a prime example where it was a case of they tried different things and it was challenging.
Yeah.
So, like you said, instead of it being bullet sponges, give us more engaging ways to play the game, I suppose, as opposed to just being a shooter. Make it more of add some puzzle elements and those kind of things.
I wonder if we'll see a new class added.
Probably. You would expect so.
Yeah.
I would just like to see the world flourish a bit more. Just to see life generally, in tower, on the maps, just opposed to just being things you kill. I'd like to see things that you interact with in a positive way as well.
There were a few events going on around the map, but they were never. There was the same kind of things. There was a dropship.
Rinse and repeat.
Mobs.
Exactly. It's always rinse and repeat. There was never a point where it was I never felt like I ran into things that would benefit me. It was always just I have to kill this thing.
That's all you have to do the whole game, really.
Yeah. Okay. Well. It kind of wraps it up for Destiny then, so we'll be keeping our eye out for Destiny 2 and then inevitably announce that.
Could be the Division.
Could be. But for all things Destiny, stay tuned to Pause and Do.